Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH, and today we're looking at Phenax, God of Deception, but more accurately, it's mill. So this is my attempt at a mill deck in EDH. Now the problem, of course, with any mill deck in EDH is twofold. First is that you've got 3 different opponents, all of whom have at least 99 card decks, so milling them all out is going to be quite the undertaking. The second part is that if you actually go and you look over all of the mill cards, a lot of them target rather than say each opponent. And also a lot of them do things like you mill half the library and are expensive. So getting enough actually good mill cards together is quite the undertaking in order to build this deck, but this is my best attempt at it. So it doesn't have to be Phenax. There are other mill related commanders. I don't even think Phenax is necessarily the best one, but it is the most on brand in what it's doing. So just to cover this very quickly, it's a 5 mana 4/7 indestructible. It's not a creature unless you have 7 total devotion to black and/or blue. And it has creatures you control have tapped. Target player puts the top X cards of their library into their graveyard, where X is the creature's toughness. This is mostly just going to be an afterthought. Again, the commander here is mostly just to be on the mill brand. So what is the rest of the deck doing? Well, we've got our card draw, of course. We've got our combo cards, because why wouldn't we be a combo deck in blue-black? So obviously, Console Oracle. We've also got Mesmeric Orb over here to be another thing that is mill-related. We've got Dramatic Scepter. We've got Hullbreaker Horror. Then we've got the combo of Bloodchief Ascension plus Mindcrank, which whenever you have both of them on the field, as long as you've got the quest counters on Bloodchief Ascension, it means the moment that any player has a card go to their graveyard from anywhere or any opponent loses life, these chain react off of each other and go infinite to kill them. And then lastly, Zur's Weirding. So Zur's Weirding is everyone plays with their hands revealed, and if a player would draw a card, they reveal the card instead. Any player can pay 2 life, and if they do, the player puts the card into their graveyard, otherwise they just draw the card. So in specific in this deck, Zur's Weirding is a combo with Bloodchief Ascension, because if you've got Bloodchief Ascension online, you gain 2 life whenever an opponent has a card go to their graveyard from anywhere. So you can deny all draws to your opponent. The moment they try to draw a card, you check Zur's Weirding, you just put it into their graveyard by paying 2 life, and then you get the life back via Bloodchief Ascension. So again, if you can get both of these cards online, it means you can just make it so that your opponents never draw any cards. We've got our counterspell suite, and we're going to need quite a lot of them because this deck's not really playing much threats. So we do want to make sure that we are both interacting with our opponents and stopping whatever it is that they're doing, plus also protecting of our various combos. Then we've got all of our various lands down here. This is pretty stock stuff for Dimir. And then, of course, we come to the mill cards. So these are cards that either outright mill the opponent or increase the ability of milling them. So Bruvac basically doubles all of our mill. We've got Consuming Aberration, which is big as far as your opponent's graveyard goes. So power and toughness equal to opponent's total graveyards. And whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, and they put those cards into their graveyard. Chord of Cunning makes you the Monarch, and as long as you can defend being the Monarch, it either mills 2 cards on upkeep from a player, or from any number of players rather. But if you're the Monarch, it mills 10. Fractured Sanity either mills 4 if you cycle it, or it mills 14 if you just cast it normally. Fraying Sanity on each end step mills a player for however many cards went to their graveyard from anywhere. Maddening Cacophony is each opponent mills 8, or if you kick it, each opponent mills half their deck. Memory Erosion is whenever an opponent casts a spell, they mill 2. Psychic Corrosion is whenever you draw, each opponent mills 2. Ruin Crab Landfall, each opponent mills 3. And Tasha's Hideous Laughter doesn't mill, but it exiles cards from the top of each player's library or each opponent's library until they hit a total mana value of 20. And so this is kind of the problem, where this is somewhat a good amount of mill cards, although the problem is, again, that there's really not any more than these cards to mill, and you will need to have multiple of them. Just one of these, or just even 2 or 3 is not going to be enough to mill your opponents completely out of the game. And even Bruvac and Fraying Sanity do not directly mill anyone. They only mill in combination with other mill cards. Also, Tasha's technically doesn't mill, it exiles, so it doesn't work with either of them. So you're really looking at 8 actual mill cards and 2 support cards for mill. Of course, if our plan is to mill our opponents, and again, probably a more efficient plan is going to be going off with any of these combos, but if you specifically only want to win with mill and you don't care for these combos, you could just cut all of these. But assuming that we're on a mill plan, we do need to make sure that we don't die before we can execute this plan. So we will need ways of not losing the game. So Propaganda hinders the ability of our opponents to attack us. We've got all of our ramp spells, and we're going to need quite a lot of them. A little bit of removal. Bowmasters, Otawara, Resculpt, Submerge. And then we've got our stacks cards. Obviously, if we're milling our opponents, we need to make sure that they can't make use of these cards that we're milling. So if they have any sort of reanimation strategy, if they're playing Underworld Breach, anything like that, Dothy Voidwalker and Planar Void to help prevent that. We've also got Notion Thief to make sure they can't outdraw us. And then the regulars, Opposition Agent, Bowmasters, Anzur's Weirding also gets categorized here under stacks. Then we need a little bit of sweepers, Cyclonic Rift, Toxic Deluge, and of course our various tutors. So if you're looking at this deck and thinking, well, I'd love to play a mill deck, but I don't want to just go back to all of these combo cards, like I don't want to actually play all of these combos, my recommendation would be you cut these and play more interaction. So more sweepers to make sure you can keep the board clear, more removal, etc. But anyways, yeah, that's my attempt at mill. Again, Phenax is the commander here, but it doesn't have to be. But yeah, that is the mill deck for EDH.